Hey everyone, thanks for joining in on my lesson. This is going over supporting English learners, so just students who don't have English as their first language. I chose this picture just to showcase that there are students that come from all over the world with all kinds of different languages, and obviously that's an important thing to know of as a teacher. And then going into it, key vocab. So English language learners, students who are unable to communicate fluently or learn effectively in English, who often come from non-English speaking homes and backgrounds, and who typically require specialized or modified instruction in both the English language and their academic courses. And then you also see it in the book as ELs, but it could also be seen in other things as ELLs. Same thing, but I just went ahead and made it consistent with ELs as it was in the book. Parallel newcomers, those who have had formal schooling equal to the grade level they enter in the U.S. school. And then just to extend on that parallel, newcomers may be familiar with English already and have experience with routines, practices, and appropriate school behavior. And then kind of the opposite, non-parallel newcomers, students who have had sporadic formal schooling in their home country or are 1 or 2 grade levels behind in the U.S. school system. Sorry. Just a few stats. I'm not going to go over them all, but 4.6 million English learners are enrolled in public schools, which is about 9% of all students. A third of all English learner students were born outside of the United States, and there is an estimated 840,000 total students who are immigrants, and those English learners actually live in low income families as well. So the No Child Left Behind Act was a giant act in the life of education, but Title III, the English Language Acquisition Act, says that is there to ensure English learners receive language instruction programs, and about 80% of the total English learners take part in these programs. It's also required for school districts to have procedures to timely and accurately identify those who are English learners and need different programs. And it also requires that schools must demonstrate proficiency in state content and achievement standards for all students. And then LIEPs are language instruction educational programs. So they have the same goals for each English learner student. One is to attain English proficiency so that they can achieve in the core academic content areas, and 2, to meet the academic achievement targets set by each state. School districts also have the option to choose between a number of programs made for instructing English learners, as long as the program is educationally sound in theory and effective in practice. And then also, just an extra thing, LIEPs utilize both English and the child's first language to influence English proficiency as they meet state academic standards. So it's kind of just going in between the two, so they can still excel in school but also learn English while using their first language. And then next I have figure 9.4 from the book, and those are just types of language instruction educational programs that you can look at. And it kind of just explains what the different programs are and what they contain. So there's that. And then also I will add that I'm going to ask Dr. Wakefield to put the link for this lesson plan, so you can go in and do all these things or double check or look back yourself if you need to. Sorry, I skipped one. Okay, there we are. So the U.S. Department of Education Office of Planning, Evaluation, and Policy Development reviewed the effectiveness of different alternate programs, and these are some of the 12 themes that they came up with. So just to highlight a few, no single approach or model is appropriate for all English learner students, so they can use different ones and not one is going to work for all. Or English learner scores on academic content assessment should be interpreted with great care, so it's obviously still as important as other students for them to perform as the other students. And then also I found a couple games that students could use if they were in the LIEPs. So just to show those, and then since I'm going to put this link on there, you can also look at them yourself or just take play a round or two and see what it would look like. So this one, you just divvy up the different syllables, and so that's obviously important in English language for them to learn how to speak. And then there's an animal slang game that I found, and that one basically is a line match game that you can go and see different slang that you would hear in our English language, and obviously that's important. If they were to hear that, they would have no idea what that meant. So that's kind of helping them with that. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing. So like I said, you can go back in and try those yourself or just look deeper in them. And here are some common obstacles of English learners or immigrant students. Anxiety. They may have an anxiety of learning a new language or have difficulty adjusting to a new culture. And with that comes understanding the Eurocentric curriculum and unique pedagogy in their new schools. And fear of authority figures. If they or a family member is an undocumented immigrant, they might be nervous to talk to others or something along those lines. Or another one, they may fail to make friends or interact with professionals. And a further look on that, race or country origin may have a factor with how they are welcomed into the school environment. So for example, those from Cuba or Vietnam may be welcomed a little more pleasantly than those from Haiti or Mexico. And there could be some parental and school system conflicts. So one parent may want their child to strictly practice their own language and culture when the school system will try and influence learning the English language and culture. So that could be kind of different. But teachers also need to be sensitive to these conflicts and may have to address that students are being influenced to become bicultural instead of just having to choose one or the other. So that's an important thing as a future teacher to keep in mind. Spanish is the most common spoken language of English learner students, and then following that is Vietnamese, Chinese, or Arabic, and Hmong. So obviously that's not limited to, but those are a few. Teachers need to influence students to maintain and acquire optimism for a bright, successful future. So that's kind of just saying they may not have had the outlook that they would have had coming from a different country or just not doing well in school because they don't speak English. So as future teachers, that's another point to keep in mind. And then these are just examples of different instructional programs to go a little step further in that. And also to note here, many large cities actually may have their own special schools and programs to help students that don't have English as their first language. And then this is just an article I found that's 12 ways to support English learners in the mainstream classroom. So if you want to take a look at that, it kind of has some tips on there as a teacher. And then this is just a short 5-minute video also that's teacher standpoints of they were once English learner students and then how the English language students affect their classroom or what they give to the classroom. So that's a neat little video to watch. And then I did make a review quiz that you can get on here and do. It will show you the correct answers, but just to go a little further on the information that was shown. And then this is kind of just a cute little picture that reminds you that it could be all kinds of different languages, but all students are important, of course. But like I said, I will put the link to the lesson plan in there so you guys can go in and watch the videos or look further into the article or do the quiz. Thanks for tuning in with me. I hope you guys learned a lot about this section.